Shalom. Tonight, I want to tell you about a number, not a formula, not a financial calculation, not a target or a goal or a figure on a spreadsheet. A number that the Jewish people have carried with them for thousands of years, through exile and wandering, through loss and rebuilding, through every season of scarcity and every season of abundance, as a symbol of something so foundational, so alive, so woven into the fabric of what it means to be human, that when you understand it tonight, you will never again see it as just a number. The number is 18. And the practice I want to share with you is this. Take 18 coins, not bills, not a bank transfer, not a digital transaction, physical coins held in the hand, counted deliberately, placed with intention into a vessel dedicated to giving. And let those 18 coins become the foundation of a Tzedakah practice that the ancient Jewish wisdom tradition understood as one of the most direct paths to aligning your life with the flow of Parnassa, with the flow of provision, of blessing, of the living sustenance that is meant to move through you and not merely accumulate in you. Stay with me, because what I am about to share about this number, about these coins, and about the act of giving that they represent has the power to completely reframe the way you think about money, about generosity, and about the relationship between what you release and what you receive. This teaching is ancient, and it is more alive than you might expect. But before I take you into the wisdom, I want to sit with you for a moment in the place where you might actually be tonight. Because I think there is a chance, a real chance, that you have a complicated relationship with giving right now. Not because you are selfish, not because you do not care about others, but because the financial pressure you are living under has made generosity feel dangerous, has made the idea of setting money aside for someone else feel like a luxury you cannot afford, has made the voice in the back of your mind say, when you have enough, then you will give. When things are more stable, then you will be generous. When the margin is wider, when the fear is quieter, when the ground feels more solid, then. And so the giving gets postponed, month after month, year after year, not from hardness of heart, but from the very real, very human experience of scarcity that makes every outgoing dollar feel like a threat. And alongside that, perhaps, there is the other weight, the one that is less about giving and more about receiving. The familiar, grinding feeling of working hard and still not having enough, of money arriving and disappearing before you can feel it, of doing everything you were told to do and still finding yourself at the end of the month in the same place you were at the beginning, wondering what you are missing, what other people know that you do not, whether this is simply how your financial life is going to be. The exhaustion of that cycle is real. The shame that sometimes accompanies it is real. The quiet hopelessness that can settle in after years of trying and still not breaking through, that is real, and it is heavy, and it deserves to be acknowledged before anything else. You are not lazy. You are not cursed. You are not someone who has been permanently disqualified from financial peace. The struggle you are carrying does not define what is possible for your life. But here is what I want to gently offer you tonight. The ancient teachers did not separate the question of giving from the question of receiving. They did not say, first receive, then give. They said the opposite. They said that giving is not what you do after you have enough. Giving is what creates the inner experience of enough. Giving is what opens the channel. Giving is the declaration that I am not someone who hoards against scarcity. I am someone who participates in the flow. And a person who participates in the flow, who gives even when it is small, who releases even when the grip of fear says hold on, that person is living in a fundamentally different relationship with provision than the person who is always waiting until they have enough to begin. And tonight, 18 coins are going to show you exactly why. In Jewish wisdom, the flow of provision into a person's life is called Parnassa. We have returned to this word many times in these teachings because it is the heart of everything we are exploring. Parnassa is not simply money. It is the living flow of divine sustenance, the livelihood that moves toward a person who is aligned with the principles of stewardship, of gratitude, of trust, and above all, of giving. The ancient teachers placed Tzedakah, the practice of giving, at the very center of their understanding of Parnassa, not at the edges, not as a nice addition for those who could afford it, at the center, as the practice that, more than any other, determines the quality of a person's relationship with provision. The word tzedakah itself tells you something important. It does not mean charity in the modern sense, a voluntary act of generosity performed when you feel moved to give. The root of the word tzedakah is tzedek, righteousness, justice. Giving in the Jewish tradition is not optional. It is not emotional. It is not a reward for abundance. It is an act of alignment with justice. It is the acknowledgement that what flows to you is not entirely yours, that a portion of it belongs by right to the flow itself, to the people who need it, to the world that gave it to you in the first place. Pay close attention now, because this is where the number 18 enters the teaching and changes everything. In Hebrew, every letter carries a numerical value. This is called gematria, the ancient practice of finding meaning in the numerical dimension of sacred language. And the Hebrew word kai, which means life, living, alive, has a numerical value of 18. Het is 8, Yud is 10. Together they spell kai. Together they equal 18. And together they mean life itself. This is why 18 is one of the most sacred numbers in Jewish tradition. To give 18, or multiples of 18, is to give life. It is to participate in the divine act of sustaining what is living, of keeping the flow of life moving through the world. When you give kai, you are not just giving money. You are giving a declaration. You are saying, I participate in life. I am not a closed system. I am a living channel through which blessing moves. Now listen carefully, because this is where the coins become a practice, and the practice becomes a transformation. When the ancient teachers spoke of tzedakah, they spoke specifically about physical giving, about coins held in the hand, counted with awareness, placed with intention into a vessel dedicated to giving. Not because digital transfers are wrong, but because the physical act of counting, of holding, of feeling the weight of what you are releasing, that physicality does something that a tap on a screen cannot fully replicate. It makes the giving real to the body, not just to the mind. It brings the intention all the way down into the hands. And giving that lives in the hands, that is felt in the counting and the releasing, is giving that reshapes the person who performs it in a way that purely mental intentions rarely can. But here is the part most people miss. 18 coins is not a large amount. In almost any currency, 18 coins, 18 small units of whatever denomination you have available, is not a sum that will strain your finances. And that is precisely the point. The ancient teachers were not teaching wealthy people to give generously. They were teaching everyone, including people who had very little, that the practice of intentional, counted, physically performed giving was available to them. That the alignment it produces, the inner transformation it creates, the channel it opens, none of that requires abundance as a prerequisite. It requires only willingness, only the decision to count 18, to hold the weight of life in your palm, and to release it with the declaration that you are a person through whom blessing flows. Let me tell you about a woman named Rachel. Rachel had been a giver most of her life, not extravagantly. She had never had the means for that, but consistently. A small amount to this cause, a coin or two to that person. A regular contribution to her community that she had maintained even in difficult months, because something in her had always understood, at a level below the logical, that giving was not something she could afford to stop. But 3 years into a period of genuine financial hardship, a job loss, then an underpaying replacement, then a slow and difficult rebuilding, the giving had stopped. Not because her heart had changed, because the fear had gotten louder than the wisdom. Because every month the calculation came out the same way. There is not enough here to give any of it away. Because the voice that said, wait until things are better, had finally, after years of resistance, won the argument. And in the months after the giving stopped, Rachel noticed something she had not expected. Not just that her finances did not improve, though they did not, but that something in her changed. A quality of closedness that had not been there before. A tightness that went beyond the financial. A way of moving through the world that was smaller, more defended, more braced than the woman she had been when she was giving. She did not connect these things at first. It took a conversation with an older woman in her community, a woman named Adina, who had survived things Rachel could barely imagine, and who still, on a very modest income, gave consistently and without hesitation to make the connection. Rachel told Adina what had happened, the stopping of the giving, the reasoning behind it, the sense that she simply could not afford it right now. Adina listened. Then she asked a question that Rachel did not expect. She said, "Before you stopped giving, did you feel more open or more closed than you do now?" Rachel thought about it. Then she said quietly, "More open." Adina nodded. She reached into her bag and took out a small coin purse. She opened it and counted out 18 coins onto the table between them. She did it slowly, deliberately, saying the Hebrew word for each number under her breath. When she reached 18, she looked up. She said, "Do you know what this number is?" Rachel said, "Chai, life." Adina smiled. She said, "Every week I count 18 coins for tzedakah. Not because I have so much to give. Some weeks I have very little. But I count 18 because I want to remember every single week with my hands and not just my head that I am alive, that the provision that reaches me is life passing through my hands. And life is not meant to stop at me. It is meant to keep moving." She slid the coins across the table toward Rachel. She said, "Start again, not with a large amount, just with this. Count 18. Feel the weight of them. Say chai when you reach the last one, and then give them. Not tomorrow, now, or as soon as you leave here. Give them before the fear talks you out of it." Rachel took the coins home. That evening, sitting at her kitchen table, she counted them out, one by one. When she reached 18, she said the word out loud, chai, life. She gave them the next morning, a small amount to a cause she believed in. She held her phone after pressing the button for a long moment, waiting to feel the regret she had expected. It did not come. What came instead was something she recognized from before, that quality of openness, that feeling of being a person who participates rather than a person who only defends. She began the practice of 18 coins every week, not always the same amount, not always the same recipient, but always counted, always physical when possible, always deliberate. Within 4 months, her financial situation had not dramatically transformed, but she had. She was making different decisions, clearer ones, braver ones, less governed by the fear that had been running her financial life since the giving stopped. A conversation she had been too afraid to have, an opportunity she had been too contracted to see. A door that opened because a woman with open hands noticed it and walked through. She still counts 18 every week. She still says chai at the last coin. Not because she believes the number is magic, because she knows that counting it, holding it, saying that word, it reminds her of what she is, a living channel, not a closed container. And from that reminder, everything else in her financial life flows more freely. Now, let me give you the 3 sacred keys of the 18 coins practice. The first key is the body, giving that is felt in the hands. There is a profound difference between giving that happens in the mind and giving that happens in the body. When you count 18 coins, one by one, and feel their weight in your palm, and release them with intention, you are performing an act that your nervous system registers in a way that a mental decision or a digital tap does not fully reach. The body learns from physical experience, and when the body learns the feeling of open-handed release, when it feels the weight of giving and the lightness that follows the release, it begins to associate generosity with something other than loss. It begins to associate it with aliveness, with participation, with the feeling of being a person who is in the flow, rather than braced against it. This is why the coins matter. This is why counting them matters. Not as a rule, but as a teaching delivered directly to the body that no amount of intellectual understanding can fully replace. The second key is chai, the declaration embedded in the number itself. Every time you count to 18, you are counting to life. You are performing an act that the Hebrew language itself has encoded with the meaning of aliveness, of vitality, of the living flow of divine sustenance moving through the world. When you reach 18 and you say, even silently, even under your breath, chai, you are declaring something about who you are and what your giving means. You are saying, this is not a loss. This is life moving through my hands. This is my participation in the sacred flow of provision that sustains the world. That declaration, made weekly, physically, with coins in the hand, becomes over time one of the deepest and most sustaining beliefs a person can carry about their own financial life. The third key is consistency, the weekly return to the practice of release. The 18 coins practice is not a one-time ritual. It is a weekly return, a weekly choosing, a weekly confirmation that you are still the kind of person who gives before they have enough, who releases before the fear tells them to hold on, who counts to life every 7 days and reminds themselves of what they are and what provision is for. Consistency in giving does something that occasional generosity cannot do. It builds a posture. It creates, over time, a person whose default relationship with money is open rather than closed, flowing rather than hoarding, trusting rather than constantly braced for loss. And that posture, built week by week through the simple act of counting 18, is worth more than any single large gift given once and then abandoned. Now let me give you the complete practice. Find 18 coins, any denomination. What you have is what you use. The amount is less important than the act. Choose a small vessel, a bowl, a jar, a box, a dedicated coin purse that will hold your Tzedakah coins. This vessel lives in a visible place in your home. Not hidden, not tucked away, visible, present. A daily reminder that your home is a giving home. Once a week, choose a consistent day, the same day each week. Sit down with your 18 coins and count them into your vessel. Count them one by one, deliberately. When you reach 18, speak the word "Hi" out loud. Just that word. Life. Let the meaning of it land. As you count, speak your intention. Say, "These coins are not mine alone. They are life passing through my hands. I release them with gratitude and with trust that the flow I participate in is the flow I receive from." During the week, whenever you pass the vessel, let it speak to you. Let it remind you of the posture you are choosing. Open hands, flowing life, a channel and not a container. When the vessel is full, or at the end of each month, give what it holds. To a person in need, to a cause that matters, to your community, to wherever you feel called to give. Give it in one act, with the same intentionality with which you collected it. Then begin again. 18 fresh coins, a fresh week, a renewed declaration of chai. Alongside this, choose one additional act of financial alignment each week from what we have explored in these teachings. Perhaps your wallet elevated and tended. Perhaps a Hebrew note carried close to your provision. Perhaps a candle lit before the bills are paid. Let the 18 coins be the center of a practice that spreads into the rest of your financial life like light spreading from a single flame. Now, speak this declaration out loud. Wherever you are, in whatever voice you have tonight. I am chai. I am life. The provision that reaches me is life passing through my hands, and I do not hold it from the world. I count 18. I give with intention. I release with trust. My Parnassa is not diminished by my giving. It is expanded by it. My hands are open. My home is a giving home. And the flow of blessing that moves through me returns to me in ways I cannot always see, but have chosen to trust. I am a channel. I am alive. I am ready. Say it again when you count your first 18 coins. Say it like you believe it. Say it until you do. Before I close, I want to say what this practice is and what it is not. 18 coins will not force the universe to match your generosity with a specific financial return. There is no cosmic ledger that tallies your tzedakah and issues a corresponding deposit. Anyone who teaches you that giving a precise amount guarantees a precise reward is not giving you wisdom. They are selling you a transaction dressed as a teaching. What the 18 coins practice offers is a weekly alignment, a weekly declaration with the body that you are a person who participates in the flow of life, rather than hoarding against its absence. And that declaration, made week after week, in the hands and not just the head, changes something real. It changes the inner posture from which every financial decision is made. It changes what you see, what you seek, what you are willing to risk, what you believe is possible for your life. The object is not the power. The number is not the power. The life declared in the counting, the chai spoken over the last coin, the open hand that releases what it has been given, that is the power. And it is available to you this week, with whatever 18 coins you can find in the bottom of a drawer or the pocket of a coat. It begins that small. It always has. If tonight's teaching stirred something real in you, go to the comments right now and write this one word: chai. Just that. Just life. Write it as your declaration that you are a living channel, that your giving is alive, and that the Parnassa flowing through your life is not something to be hoarded, but something to be honored by being shared. If you want to continue walking this path, to receive more of these ancient Jewish teachings on Parnassa, on Tzedakah, on the sacred wisdom living inside the ordinary objects and habits of daily life, please subscribe to this channel. Every teaching here is offered with reverence for the tradition and with genuine love for everyone who arrives here looking for something real. And in the next teaching, I want to show you something that most people walk past every single day without a second thought: the envelope, a plain, simple envelope, and what the ancient Jewish practice of separating money, of physically dividing provision into portions with intention and purpose, teaches about the flow of Parnassa, about the spiritual discipline of the divided wallet, about why some traditions taught that money separated into named portions behaves differently than money kept in one undivided pile. The envelope in this teaching becomes a vessel of intention. And what happens when provision is given a name, a purpose, and a physical boundary? What happens to the person who handles money that way is a teaching about stewardship that is both ancient and entirely practical. That teaching is coming, and it is more clarifying than you might expect. Until then, shalom. May you count to 18 this week and feel the weight of life in your hands. May your giving open what your fear has been closing. And may the high you declare over those coins return to you in the form of a Parnassa that flows more freely, more fully, and more faithfully than anything you have yet imagined.